The Old West was a time of lawlessness, where men were judged not by their morality but by their ability to wield a gun. And in that world of violence and chaos, few names evoke fear and respect like Curly Bill Brocius. An outlaw notorious for brutality and cold-blooded murder, Brocius is a force to be reckoned with. He was the outlaw leader of the Clanton Gang, who terrorized Arizona in the late 1800s. In this video, we'll explore the life and crimes of Curly Bill Brocius, while trying to separate fact from fiction in this deadly gunman legend. According to historical records, William Brocius was born in 1845, better known as Curly Bill Brocius. He is thought to have emigrated from Texas or Missouri to the Arizona Territory in 1878, bringing with him a herd of cattle that he intended to sell to the San Carlos Reservation. After selling his cattle, Brocius traveled to Tombstone, Arizona, where he quickly gained a reputation as a notorious and dangerous gunman. He was an alcoholic, had a penchant for killing other ranchers' livestock, and was involved in many murders. Brocius was implicated in a fatal incident in Tombstone, Arizona, in October 1880. When law enforcement officers tried to disarm him, he fatally shot Tombstone's first sheriff, Fred White. Brocius was later charged with murder, but the jury later acquitted him because they ruled that White's death was accidental. It is worth noting that some historians speculate that Brocius may have intentionally shot White, but the jury was influenced by the law of the time, which often favored outlaws. In March 1881, Curly Bill Brocius and his friend Johnny Ringo rode to Maxie, near Camp Thomas, Arizona. Cowboy Dick Lloyd got drunk and shot and wounded a man. Then Lloyd rode into the pub where Brocius was drinking with friends. Brocius and several other men were angry at the interruption, and about a dozen of them, including Brocius, shot and killed Lloyd. After the shooting, the pub owner, O'Neill, pleaded guilty and was acquitted. Brocius and the other men involved in the murder were not charged because there were no witnesses willing to testify against them. On May 25, 1881, Curly Bill Brocius drank large quantities of alcohol in Galeyville with his friend and Lincoln County War veteran Jim Wallace, as well as 8 or 9 others. During this time, Wallace insulted Brocius' friend and ally, Vice Marshal Tombstone Billy Breckinridge. Although Breckinridge ignored him, Brocius became agitated and insisted that Wallace apologize to Breckinridge, threatening to kill him. Wallace eventually complied, but Brocius later insulted him, calling him the damn son of a bitch of Lincoln County and threatening to kill him anyway. In response, Wallace left the pub and Curly Bill followed suit. Feeling threatened, Wallace shot Brocius, wounding him in the cheek and neck. Deputy Breckinridge arrested Wallace, but the court ultimately ruled that he acted in self-defense. Around this time, Brocius also met Pony Deal for the first time. Deal was later implicated in a number of criminal activities carried out by the Cowboys. In July 1881, Bill Leonard and Harry Head attempted to rob a general store owned by William and Isaac Hazlitt in Hachita, New Mexico. The Hazlitt brothers killed both Leonard and Head. Some historians suggest that Brocius and his friend Johnny Ringo traveled to New Mexico to avenge the death of their friend and murdered both Hazlitt brothers. However, there is no concrete evidence linking Curly Bill to Hazlitt's death. 4 months after Brocius was shot, on October 6, 1881, George Parsons passed by the McLaury brothers' farm in the Sulphur Springs Valley as part of an Indian scouting group. He noted that Brocius' wounds were still not fully healed, but he was strong enough to ride a horse. Despite this, there is no convincing evidence that Curly Bill was involved in the murders of William and Isaac Hazlitt. While some experts suspect Brocius was involved in the murders, there is no solid evidence to support this theory. In July, it was reported that Brocius participated in the Skeleton Canyon Massacre, where a herd of Mexicans was ambushed. 6 cowboys were killed and the rest were captured. It is alleged that Curly Bill sold the stolen Mexican beef to Newman Haynes Clanton the following month. During this time, Old Man Clanton and 4 others were ambushed while herding cows on the trail to Tombstone. There is no convincing evidence that Brocius was involved in these events, nor has he been charged with any crime in connection with these incidents. Brocius was still recovering from being shot in the face by Wallace just 6 weeks earlier. However, some researchers suspect that he may have participated in these events even though he was injured. After a gunfight at the OK Corral on October 26, 1881, Brocius committed 2 robberies, one on the Tombstone Bisbee carriage on January 6, 1882, and another on the Tombstone Benson stage on January 6, 1882. The next day, United States Deputy Field Marshal Wyatt Earp pursued Brocius back to Tombstone on March 17. Marietta Duarte, also known as Pete Spence, was involved in the assassination of Morgan Earp. However, Justice of the Peace Wells Spicer did not allow her testimony because it was hearsay and because she could not testify against her husband. Due to lack of evidence, all charges against the cowboys were dropped. On March 24, 1882, the Earp Group planned to meet Charlie Smith at Iron Springs, later known as Mescal Springs, in the Whetstone Mountains. Smith brought cash from Tombstone, about 20 miles east, to help pay the cost of ownership. While crossing the water's edge near a stream, they came across Brocius, Pony Deal, Johnny Barnes, Frank Patterson, Milt Hicks, Bill Johnson, Ed Lyle, and Johnny Lyle cooking a meal by the stream. According to Wyatt Earp in an anonymous report to the Tombstone Epitaph, he was leading a detachment of commandos when they suddenly arrived at the cowboys' camp at the stream, less than 9 meters from the embankment. The cowboys immediately started shooting as soon as Earp dismounted, and for a moment they thought they had shot him, but hit the horse's tail instead. During the fight, Texas horse Jack Vermillion was killed, and he remained calm in the flames and was trapped near Wyatt. Doc Holliday, Johnson and McMaster are shooting and looking for cover. 18 months ago, Wyatt Earp defended Brocius against a mob that wanted to execute him for killing Town Marshal Fred White and later provided testimony that helped him get away with murder. However, Brocius was now shooting Earp with his shotgun from a distance of 15 meters but missed. Earp returned fire to his horse with a 22-inch .10. He killed Brocius with a single shot in the stomach. That shot nearly cut him in half, and Brocius fell into the water at the edge of the stream. After engaging with multiple shots, the cowboys were overwhelmed by the Earp's firepower. However, Earp's was unharmed as bullets entered both sides of Wyatt's long coat, while Johnny Barnes was shot in the chest and Milt Hicks was shot in the hand. Texas Jack Vermillion attempted to retrieve the rifle that had fallen under his horse, but was still hit by cowboys' bullets. Doc Holliday helped him find a place to hide. Wyatt had trouble riding due to the cartridge belt slipping down his leg, but eventually got on his horse and retreated. McMaster was grazed by a bullet through the strap of his field goggles. According to Earp's biographer John Flood, the cowboys buried Brocius' body at Frank Patterson's ranch near the Babocomari River, close to McLaury's original ranch site, about 8 kilometers west of Fairbank. The McLaury family moved to the Sulphur Springs Valley in late 1880, and the grave is believed to have originally belonged to Frank Stillwell. However, Brocius' grave has never been identified. Curly Bill Brocius' life ended violently and controversially. To this day, his story continues to capture many people's imaginations, as a reminder of the Wild West and the men who lived and died in these tumultuous times.